r/AskReddit by Reddit. Human Resources Employees. What are your best HR nightmare stories? I'm on the HR team that supports a wide variety of US cities for our company, including our colorful Florida locations. This is the best story I heard. We had some woman trying to avoid doing work by sitting out in her car in the parking lot. While she was hiding out there, she needed to use the restroom. Well, instead of going back inside or doing literally anything else, she decides to pee out her car window. Even though I'm also a woman, I was impressed and disgusted by the physics behind this feat. She had stuck her bare butt outside the window and just went for it. Unbeknownst to her, her male co-worker had arrived at work late due to an appointment. He drove past to find a parking spot as this was happening and got full view. He then reported the incident to us. One of our HR people had to investigate this, and sure enough, parking lot cameras could corroborate his story. Our HR person confronted the woman. Her response, "Well, how did he know it was me? It could have been anyone." We thought, okay, fair enough. The cameras aren't CSI grade zoom, so we only saw the butt part. It was harder to completely identify the face. So we went back to the male peer and asked how he knew it was her. His response, "Oh, it was definitely her. The face tattoos are pretty recognizable. We definitely don't get paid enough for this." Edit. For you investigative sleuths out there, our cameras are not as amazing as you think they are. It's a parking lot, not the White House. The one camera that caught the event didn't have hyper zoom on the license plate. That's why we have a witness. One place I used to work, one of the upper management guys who was in charge of the warehouse would hop on the forklifts and do donuts. He had colon cancer and was always having surgeries to remove another section of colon, so he had a colostomy bag. He would squeeze air out of his colostomy bag while he was doing donuts on the forklifts. It would waft this god-awful stench everywhere. Everyone thought it was hilarious and would immediately run outside for a smoke break until the scent dissipated. The smell was bad enough it made a coworker puke. Also had another manager there eat 10 sacks of White Castle sliders for lunch. He ate the last 10 sack on the toilet. I have no idea how he could eat with the sounds and stenches he was emitting from his other end. It sounded like someone trying to drown Donald Duck in a puddle while tooting a tuba. No one went into that bathroom for the rest of the day. Not in ours, but my previous senior manager was renowned for sleeping with colleagues. He was married with kids. Before I started there, I remember seeing a huge banner plastered across a footbridge that everyone leaving work by car had to drive under to get to the motorway. The sign said, "Joe Blogs, not actual name, cheating bastard." Turns out he was cheating on his wife with a team leader from another dept, and was cheating on his mistress with another team leader from yet another department. Both the team leaders found out about each other and had a massive fight in the reception of the building. By the time I started at the company, both of the team leaders were no longer working there. Turns out he was cheating on his wife with a team leader from another dept, and was cheating on his mistress with another team leader from yet another department. Oh, I see. They didn't have a problem when it was them having an affair with a married man. But when it turned out he was dipping his pen into several bottles of company ink, that's when the mistresses had an issue. Seems a bit hypocritical. Once upon a time I was an HR manager. This is my worst story. Once I had a dude who looked great on paper for a mid-level role at the large non-profit I worked for. We were a houselessness and addiction rehab shelter. Easily the type of resume for our operations dept, which made us all think, "Oh, this guy looks good. He could be management material someday with these type of credentials." I phone interviewed him and thought, oh yeah, the team's gonna love him. We set up an in-person interview. I wasn't able to sit in on the in-person interview, so the director of that dept and his best/longest standing employee did it. Apparently when the guy first showed up and was asked if he'd like anything to drink, he asked for a bourbon on the rocks. Kidding. And everything went downhill from there. According to the dept director and the other employee, the interview went immediately terrible and the guy kept floating things like, "But I bet you're not going to hire me because of." They felt like every answer from the guy and every question was meant to be some sort of verbal trap he was laying, so they cut it pretty short. Later, the guy called me back directly. He had my office hash because I had used it to phone interview him and left a VM. He started by saying essentially thank you for the opportunity, but I really didn't appreciate how you guys clearly didn't want to hire me because I'm a male / I'm too old / I'm a father / I have a chronic medical issue / I was an alcoholic 10 plus years ago / I was once homeless / etc etc. All of these are verbal traps, and I'm 100% sure he was trying to trap us so he could disparage the organization and sue us. I can say definitively that none of these were true. We weren't thinking of any of these things, and we were damn near ready to hire him before the interview had he done as well as he did on paper and in the phone interview. The only reason we didn't hire him was because he was clearly a malicious psychopath, and it was pretty clear he wanted the organization's money, but had no intention of doing any real work besides an hour of interviewing to get it. I had to bring the issue up with our CEO and CFO, and we drafted a very clear statement in return, which I left by voicemail and email. Dear Mr. Blank, thank you for the opportunity to interview you. In response to your prior communication, we feel it very important to clarify that we have not yet decided on a final candidate for this role, and as we discussed in both your phone interview and your in-person interview, the only consideration we will make when deciding on a final candidate is whether one's professional qualifications match the needs of this role. Thank you for your time. We will keep you informed on our final decision. Sincerely, F that guy. 1. I had a bookkeeper that paid himself 2 checks every week. We did not catch it for a year. 2. Another bookkeeper quit and files for unemployment. He then claimed a claim with the EOC that he had a disability and we failed to make accommodations for him. The disability was alcoholism, and the accommodations were leaving early to attend AA meetings. Seriously, we had to hire a lawyer to fight that. 3. A guy I hired hurt himself on the first hour of the first day of work. He claimed he fell and hit his head on the wall. He was out for weeks on workman's comp from the concussion. Then when he came back on light duty, he could only do desk work, but managed to fall again in the bathroom and hit his head again. It took me 9 months to get rid of him. It turns out this was not his first rodeo. When I called his former employer, the lady I spoke to made an offhand comment about workplace accidents and head injuries and the importance of cameras in the workplace. 4. While doing a remodel of museum, one of my employees helped himself to a gun that was on display. It was very ugly and embarrassing for everyone. My company was kicked off the job and banned from ever working for them again. I fired the guy and he filed a discrimination claim with the EOC because I did not fire the whole crew, just him. I got more. A little background. I'm in the electoral contracting business, with 85% of the staff working as in elections and the other 15% working out of the office. The company is about 50 years old, and I work in management and end up handling a lot of our issues. 5. Back in early 2000s I hired a service guy, and he was charismatic, and all my customers loved him. He did lots of service calls and nobody ever complained. 2 plainclothes police showed up one day, asked me if this guy was working for me. They showed me a mugshot of my serviceman, but the name was different. He was using a fake ID, and it turns out this guy was wanted by the police for rape, and he had a record. He was out sick that day and his service truck was in the yard. The police asked if they could look inside and I agreed. They found a handgun, handcuffs and a box of condoms in his truck. We don't think he hurt any of our clients, but he was in their houses. We have done background checks ever since. 6. One of the older foremen that had worked for the company for 40 years passed away. It was sad, and just about the whole company went to the funeral. A couple of weeks after the funeral his widow calls me and says she is selling the house and that we need to come pick up all the company tools he was storing for us. A little confused I drove to her house and she walked me to barn which was filled full of company tools. I mean full. The guy had been stealing tools and material for 40 years. It took a full crew a week to clean out his barn. I thanked her for letting us store our tools for so long. 7. I had a job got south me. We were way over on hours as compared to where we should be on the schedule. Then we had an accident on the job and we did a safety audit. In this audit we compared our daily job logs to the general contractor's daily logs, and this GC was documenting how many men we had on site. It just sort of popped off of the paperwork right in our faces. Every Friday my 10-man crew only had 5 men. MTW. There were all 10 men, but every Friday it was 5 men. Half of the crew would take every other Friday off, and the other half was alternating with them, while all of them were getting paid for 40 hours every week, and this had been going on for 18 months. I had to office on site to make sure they all worked 40 hours, because you can't fire a whole crew in the middle of job. Thank you for watching Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more r/AskReddit videos. Share your stories in the comments section below.